Magandang hapon, Te.
Magandang hapon, Pao.
So now for another episode, we are episode 9 now.
Time flies.
Time flies, right? So
Yeah.
from our last episode, we talked about a lot about there's more inventory in the market right now. Tapos mas madaming property na at the lower price point. I think it's still somewhat of a, getting it from a buyer's market more to like a balanced market. So we're kind of getting there, but there's still a lot of opportunities out there.
Mm-hmm.
And we mentioned our opportunities just outside of the GTA, that there's more opportunities if you're driving out of the core. There's more deals that you can find, right? So I think that's the one thing that I wanted to focus on. But before we jump into that, I wanted to ask you, Tess. So kamusta naman yung market ngayon? How is it? Are things heating up with all of these changes that's happening in the mortgage and like real estate industry?
Glad you asked kasi mula nung I think we had 4 reductions so far, right?
Four.
And
So
I
a
think
total of
yeah,
1.25
yes, that's
decrease.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, due to that rate reductions, there's a lot of movement. In October alone, there's a surge of 44% in sales. So that's huge. That's 44.4 for all home types. That's a big jump. Active listings went up to 25.3. You know what that means for the buyers. So buyers, you would have a lot more properties to choose from. The average price, it didn't go up that high, but it still went up slightly at 1.1%. Now, the property days on market, I like to focus on that because, people looking at listing days on market, it's when you put the property on the market and then got sold without considering terminating, suspending, then putting it back again. And then that's what we call property days on market. Now that is 43 days on market, kind of 1.5 months. And that's up by 30%.
Are
A
we
lot of people,
talking all type of properties or like is it
yes,
the specific?
all types.
That's
All
all
types of
types. Okay.
properties. Yeah, 30.3%. And so what I'm basically saying is that if the sellers have their properties on the market for over a month, at in this market, it's normal. So you know what the key thing is? You got to price your property right if you want to sell it fast. That's the main thing. So that's for the all home types. Now let's talk about the major home types. There is still, again, as mentioned, there is a strong year-over-year sales growth. All property types show significant year-over-year sales increases, with townhouses that's up by 57%. So again, townhouse, again, a lot of buyers are getting into townhouses because it's more
Mhm.
affordable. And semi-detached as well at 44%. Those are with the ones with the largest gains. And most of those ones, I'd say, so that's the total for the GTA. But the townhouses with the highest gain would be on the 905, which is outside of Toronto. You
Outside
see,
of the
you get,
416. Yeah.
yes. So these are in the 905. It could be Peel region. It could be Halton region. It could be maybe not Halton. Halton is always expensive. But I'm not
Durham.
gonna I'm not gonna discriminate. Ask your realtor to check the properties for you within that range, whatever range you are in. But in definitely in Durham, and yeah, in maybe Peel region as well. Yeah. So detached is up by 48% for the 905. So that means there's a lot of detached houses that are got sold. But again, the 62% is for the townhouses I'm seeing. They're all went up. In condo was up 36% as well. As for the average price,
So we're talking about, so just to clarify, those are the sales
those are the
from,
sales.
was
Yeah.
that from month over month
No, this
increase?
is
Is that what we're
year
talking?
over year. It's a
Year,
year over
year over
year.
year. Okay.
Yeah,
Year over year.
compared
Okay.
last year. So there's a significant increase compared last year. So like I said, townhouse 57% increase compared last year in sales. Detached is 47%. That's huge, right? As for the average price, 905, they all went down, but not significantly. It's between 0.1 to 4.3% in average price. It's down in 905. In 416, which is Toronto, all went up for detached, semi-detached townhouse, except for, guess what? What type of home?
Condos?
You got it. So, I mean, it's not that much. It's just down by 1%. So, other than that,
Mhm.
everything else is moving. We're seeing a lot of movement due to the rate reduction, and we're thinking. I mean, the economists are predicting another half a point reduction on December 11th.
By
So
December 11th, yeah.
we already expect, I'm seeing a lot of bidding.
Hmm.
I don't know why they're doing that, because honestly, we're still in a balanced market. And
Hmm.
maybe with the exception of condo, and I think condo is in the buyer's market,
Hmm.
I don't see, because I tried it. I tried it once. No, I tried it twice in two of my properties. Didn't work. You just want to test the water, right? But no. So I really like, for the bidding, we're not there yet. I expect it to happen more in the springtime, because I know it's gonna get really crazy. But well,
Well,
that's what
with all
everybody's saying.
Well, with all of the changes that's coming up, a lot of the changes, I think most of them are effective December, right? So for you to take advantage of that, you'll have to send the application after December, on December 15th. So for
Yeah,
you,
for
from
end of
that
the
point
year.
on, yeah, from that point on, and then the time that you're going to buy the property is going to fall closer to the spring market. And I think
Right.
that's what you're suggesting there, right? So there's a
That's
lag.
exactly.
So
That's
it's about a couple
exactly.
of months, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that ideally, buyers should be getting their pre-approval now to lock the rates. And if they have the funds now, they should complete their purchases by end of the year. You don't have to if you're not financially ready, so that you can do the closing later, because in springtime, it's going to be crazy.
Mhm.
You'll see, and don't tell me that I didn't tell you so. But that's what we're expecting. I'm already, Pau, you as a mortgage broker, what are you seeing in mortgage applications?
Definitely a lot more pre-approvals right now. So, like
Yeah.
I think I mentioned in the last episode that prior to this big rate reduction, it's like the 0.25, 0.25,
Mm-hmm.
0.25. Like it wasn't making much of a difference. But now I'm finding my old clients or new clients are actually reaching out and wanting that pre-approval. There's more interest in the markets with this big zero point 0.5 rate reduction that happened a few weeks ago. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely with that and the mortgage rule changes, the rate reduction, there's so many things that's happening all at once. I do believe that we are going to come into a busier spring market.
It's gonna be really busy. Yeah, because my friends in the mortgage industry too were telling me that it's just nonstop. So many applications. Some are good, some are
Mm-hmm.
bad, obviously. But yeah, so
So thank you for that update. Was there anything else, Tess, before I move along?
I'd say, yeah, I think you already mentioned it, that for buyers, for sure, this could be a favorable time to buy, because there's a lot of inventories on the market, and stable prices offer opportunities for them without excessive bidding wars yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it will come,
Yeah.
right? And as for the sellers, I'd say they can take advantage of the strong demand. But like I said, and I always say it, they should price their property competitively. Okay. You
Mm-hmm.
can't just price it according to how you wanted it. Remember, the one that dictates the price for your property are the buyers, not you. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're yeah, you should go with the comparables. And like, for example, it's a good example. If there's a property that was sold in your neighbor, like maybe two neighbors down the road, for 1.5, and it's fully upgraded from top to bottom, and you want also for 1.5, but your house is inferior compared to that property, you just did half of the renovations of the other property, you really think yours is also 1.5? Just be reasonable with your pricing. That's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying. Because a lot of sellers are wondering, like, oh, my property didn't sell, but the neighbors sold it for 1.5. Yeah, but you have to compare apple to apple. Listen to your realtors.
Well,
They know what they're doing.
that's how appraisals work, right? So
Yeah.
typical appraisals, to find out the value of your home is you're doing 3 4 comparables, and then you're going to adjust accordingly based on condition of the property if one has more upgrades. So that's how the real valuation is for properties, right? By professional
That's
appraisal.
that's right. Yeah, that is
Mhm.
right. But sellers sometimes, or most of the time, you know, do not listen to that. And we are very protective of our property, but let's be objective and not
real
subjective.
yeah.
Let's go with the
Hmm.
numbers, on what's the number, the stats, not on the numbers that we want it. Like, obviously your property is precious, it means a lot to you, but if you want to sell it, you have to sell it at the price that's based on
That's
the most recently sold comparable. so that it will sell
Mhm.
faster. Yeah, that's all.
Mhm. Sounds
So
good. Well,
what do you
thank you for
do
that,
you have any
Tess.
you're welcome. Do you have any examples for what
Well,
our
I
buyers can afford in this market, Pao?
Yeah. So what I was gonna say is like now that we talk about there's opportunities out there, what are they looking at in terms of the financing end, right? So the way I broke it down to discuss today is that I find that there's two main approaches for first-time home buyers, one in two option. So this is based on assuming that there's no major debt, like huge car loans, credit is decent. Like when I say decent, you're looking at a 680 plus beacon score, stable
Okay,
employment, so no issues with employment. I ran some numbers based on a $550,000 purchase price because I'm
that's a good number.
finding, yeah, it's a good number for a starter home for a
First
first
time
time
home
home
buyers.
buyer to get into the market, right? So I think there's two scenarios for first time home buyers. Now, the first option is someone with a minimum down payment, good household income. And I just want to clarify what good household income is there too, because it's with
That's all
prices now
relative.
with where, yeah, it's all relative, right? So I think average in Toronto is average income is about 55,000, right? So if we're talking about good income, we're looking at a household income of two times that, so you're looking at about the 120. So for this first example, we're talking about minimum down payment is for a $550,000 property is 30,000. So you have to account for closing cost. Closing cost for that size of a property, I approximated about 9,000. And then from there, you have closing costs. But then you get a first time home buyer rebate of up to 4,000. Income required with a minimum down payment for a 550,000 purchase is about 119,000. This number actually includes that for first time home buyers as of December 15th, that you're going to be able to utilize the 30-year amortization.
Wow, that's
Because this number
amazing,
before
actually.
was, yeah, because this number was slightly higher before. I think before when I calculated, it was about 126,000 based on a 25-year amortization. Because just to clarify, you have a minimum down payment, it has to be insured. And the insured mortgages before has to be amortized over 25 years. Come December 15th, it's going to be, you can amortize over 30-year amortization. That means you can qualify with slightly lower household income. So now it's about 119,000. Okay. So in this
Yeah.
example, 550 purchase, your mortgage is going to be about 540,000. And the way that number works, I know it's 550 minus 30 is 520, but then you have to account for an insurance premium, which is ballpark around 20,000. So that's why you're back up to 540. Okay.
Hmm.
So 540,000, 30-year amortization, your monthly that you're looking at for a 550 purchase is $2,800 monthly. That's just principal and interest payments, and then you have to add property taxes and if you have condo fees. So this example is based on a mid to high for fixed rate, just so that people know how I calculated it.
That is so
So
affordable. In GTA, that is
so
very good. I'll tell
yeah,
them
so
why
it's
later.
definitely good. Yeah, because it's definitely good, right? Because like two bedroom
Rental?
like two properties that you're renting, you're looking at about that much, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm
So
renting
that I
right now
think the
for
only
two
thing that,
bedrooms, 2008.
yeah.
Actually,
So yeah, so
it's
it's definitely good
yeah.
opportunity. So yeah, so I wanted to throw in some numbers there so you have an understanding. So this is for the person with a scenario that you have the minimum down payment, so you've saved up about 30,000 for a down payment, and then you have another 10,000 for closing costs. So you're looking at about 40,000 that you've saved up, but then you have to be on that range of 119, 120,000 income, and then you have an opportunity to be able to jump into the market, right?
Yeah.
So
This is great news for
so
buyers, Pao.
that's So that's example number one. I also made another
Mhm.
scenario. I think this is another opportunity. And, we're working with a client actually in more of this type of scenario. Would be somebody with a sizable down payment, but you don't have that 120,000 household income. Maybe it's, single income, or, you're a couple with like slightly lower income. So in this example, 550 purchase, but you have a 20% down payment. So for 550,000 purchase, you're looking at having 110,000 down payment. So this example is where what we call alternative lending or the B lending space. So there are extra fees involved, but I'm going to break that down as well. So the closing cost is about the 9,000, and then you're looking at probably another 5-6,000 in fees because it is an alternative lender. But the income required, so this is why I wanted to bring this up as an option, is because in this example you can get by with $75,000 household income,
Mm.
right?
Wow.
So
Okay.
that's more reasonable for some people, right? So that's why I wanted to
Very.
bring up. So now in this, yeah, so in this example, you're mortgaging about 440,000. And because it's an alternative lender, there are lenders that can amortize over 35 years. And in this example, your monthly is going to be $2,500 a month. And this is with, and being an alternative lender too, you have a higher rate. It's about 1%, 1.2% higher than the normal rates, at least at this point. So you're looking at high fives, low 6% range for the rate.
Wow. Wow.
Okay.
That is an amazing example, actually. And these are real life examples. Because
Yeah. Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't think, Pao, I don't think anyone would think that they can afford to buy a property with a mortgage payment of 2,500 monthly if the numbers
Mm-hmm.
goes with what you just mentioned. But they wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
know if they don't find, if they don't speak to a mortgage professional and find out, right? So, and a lot of them are scared.
Well, that's a good thing about being a broker, right? Because we have access to so many lenders. We have
Mm-hmm.
access to the A lenders, we have the banks, we have finance companies, we have alternative lenders. So this is more in the alternative lending space. And I know a lot of people kind of shy away from the alternative lenders, but it's because there's no real understanding on what it is. Because to be honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
with what I presented here, that's not a bad option to get into the market. And also there is about like that 5, 6,000 or even $7,000 extra in fees. But in these numbers, like if you compare option one and option two, option one have that 6, 7,000 fees, but it doesn't have that insurance premium of about 20,000. So
Mm-hmm.
people keep forgetting just because it's built into the mortgage when you're doing an insured mortgage that you're paying that premium, that people don't think that they had to pay an extra 20,000 just to qualify for that, which is sizable, right? So really that's
Mm-hmm.
option two is almost like less out of your pocket,
Right.
even though you're paying that fee, right? So if anybody had questions about that, I can definitely dive in more one-on-one. So definitely reach out and I can
Mm-hmm.
discuss those options with you. But now that we kind of established that there are opportunities for a 550,000 purchase given these two types of financing options, what is out there, Test, right now? That because I threw in the number 550 because I personally have looked into the market and I'm like, hey, actually there are decent opportunities out there for that 550,000 range. I know a bunch of clients that are in this position, right? So and they're interested into buying a home. Where can we
Mm-hmm.
find these opportunities right now, Tess?
Well, with an increased active listings right now of 25.3%, buyers have so many choices right now. For 550K, depending on where they're looking for, in East Toronto, they can find, so far I've seen 114 units in 2 to 2 plus 1 beds, 3 beds. I only seen 12 units. That's in the east side of Toronto. Scarborough in Central, there are so many as well. That ranges from 1 bedroom all the way to 3 beds. Okay. West side
Mm-hmm.
of Toronto, there are also a lot. Like I'm seeing 65 units of 2 beds, 3 beds, 24 units for 550,000. So in every areas. For Durham, I actually, obviously there's a lot more for 1 and 2 bedrooms, but I even checked for 3 bedrooms. There are 15 units available on the market right now.
Mm-hmm.
So example of that. In Oshawa, there's a condo townhouse listed for 535,000, so it's less than 550. It features 3 beds, 2 full baths, and 1 parking. Maintenance is really low. It's only 576 per month, and it includes hydro and water. Now you have to pay for the heat. I believe that's less than 100, probably between 50 to 75. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Property tax, it's just a shy of 3,000 per year, and it has a very good size. It's between 1,000 to 1,200 square feet. This property has been on the market for 59 days. So you can definitely negotiate for a lower price. Okay, so that's one very good opportunity to get into the market, and that's a condo townhouse. If you're willing to go to Durham, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
you have to make sacrifices if you wanted to be a homeowner. And then if you wanted to go to downtown, there's a condo apartment there. There's one listing at 230 Queens Quay. I didn't check earlier if it's already sold, but I think it's still on the market. It's listed for 550,000. It features one bed and one bath, one parking and one locker. So it has everything.
Wow.
Maintenance
Mhm.
is it's a little bit higher, 608, which is it's really an average in
It's
Toronto
decent.
downtown.
It's
Yeah,
decent depending on the size, right? Yeah.
yeah. And get this, for 608 per month, it's all inclusive. That means you don't have to pay
Oh
for
wow.
anything. You just pay for 608. Everything else is included. All your utilities, heat, hydro, common elements, and all other amenities. Property tax is 2,475 per year. Okay. And then the size is, well, it's only one bed. So size is a little bit smaller, 600 to 700 square feet. Still pretty good. And it's been on the market for over, I believe, 13 days. And lastly, there's also one in Bathurst Street, more on the North York, 17 Bathurst,
Mhm.
right? Listed for 500,000. See, you didn't see that coming. Features one plus one bed and one bath. Maintenance is only 458, so less than 500. Includes water and heat. You see, that's a great deal too. Property tax is only 2,239. Size is also 600 to 699 square feet. Days on market, 26 days. You can get a good deal with that too because it's been on the market for a while. I'm sure the bestseller wants to sell that ASAP. You see, if you
Mhm.
just look around, take your time, make sacrifices. If you wanted to live in Toronto, obviously you can still get something for 550, but smaller space, right? Maybe land transfer tax is higher, but property tax is lower. If you go outside of Toronto, property tax is higher, lower land transfer, so it kind of like offsets each other, but it's just
Offsets,
farther.
yeah.
You get more space outside of Toronto, but are you willing to drive? So that's what you have to ask. What if you're in Toronto downtown and you just steps away from your work, or you just take the subway? You don't have to use a car where you
Mhm.
save money for a car insurance. All those expenses you have to think about, right? If you were to drive
For sure.
far, yeah, you can get a bigger place, but you need a car. Or if you don't need a car,
Mhm.
make sure it's close to GO train and stuff like that. And usually it is. So those are the
Mhm.
things that are available in the market. It's a great
Yeah.
opportunities right now for the buyers to jump into. If, like I said, they just have to ask the realtor, and I'm sure you'll be able to pull those information to find the properties.
Mhm.
The key thing here is to get a pre-approval and then work from there. Once you know the number, then you start looking in the areas that you wanted if there is some
Mhm.
available. Otherwise, make
Well,
adjustments.
yes,
And
I know there's been a lot of talk that the market has kind of cooled off and there are people that are selling are not getting the prices they want. So from the buyer standpoint, that's opportunity, right? So
mm-hmm.
like you mentioned there, I'm looking at condos. Like I think I even put it into your attention an example that's where I lived downtown before with on Young and like Esplanade, which is a great
Very nice,
area.
yeah.
This condos were selling 700. Now they have to list like I mentioned to you, it was listed for 499. I don't think it'll go at 499. But even if it sells at 600, I think it's still a good buy.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
because the market is currently slower, especially in the condo market, I think there's a lot of opportunities that if you were trying to get into the market, if you work in the downtown core, it's a good time to try to get into that market.
right, exactly.
And as you mentioned, that if you're willing, if you want more space, and then there's opportunities more in the 905 going your direction. Because for
Yeah,
instance, the client that we have, we're looking more in like the Oshawa or like
yeah,
even like Scarborough area.
yeah.
There's
Just be
opportunities there for
open-minded.
more space.
Yeah,
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 you're looking for more, like if you want 1,000 square feet, you have a couple of children that need their own room, there's opportunities there.
yeah.
And
For
I know that
550,
actually there's this one opportunity there that is your listing
yeah,
in that range. Which
splash.
property is that? And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So basically, my new listing is actually live today on MLS. Listed for 560,000. That is the market value. So please don't ask if what's the market value. I'm talking to the agents. That's the asking price, and that's the price that my client wants. It's the market value. It features two bedrooms, okay, and one den. The den has a closed door, so you can use it as a third bedroom, and that's what is being used right now. It's a corner unit,
Wow.
so it's very accessible and convenient, and it's on the first floor as well. So it's in the corner unit, so you can access it from the side because it has a patio, and they actually had the new railing installed for privacy and entertainment, obviously. And it's a very good space. Actually, it's 816 square feet. It's good for first time home buyers if you have kids, for downsizers, even for investors if you want to rent it out. It's in a very nice neighborhood. It's between Finch and Middlefield. So it's between Makawan and Markham Road. For Torontonians, they would know. Um, it's the address is 5235 Finch Avenue, Unit 119, and it's live now. So if you wanted to have an exclusive showing, or book it with your realtor, so you can ask me if you don't have a realtor. I would be happy to show it to you guys. There we go.
Perfect. Thank
That's
you for that, Tess.
550. Oh, the maintenance 577. The maintenance includes water.
577.
And I believe my sellers told me that the utilities, the heat and hydro, only cost them $70 a month. It's not
Yeah.
much. Yeah. And everything is owned. So you have the furnace, AC, all owned. There's no rental fees.
Well, that's
There we go.
definitely a great starter home for a family, right? So,
Yes.
ran the numbers of what you're looking at if you were to finance it. I think we wanted to get into a bit of the rents, right? So if you were renting that property, you're probably close to 3,000 to
3,000.
rent that, I would assume, or like
Yeah, because
2,800.
it's 2 plus
Is
1.
that what would
Yeah,
that rent for?
it's 2 plus 1.
3,000.
It's probably 3,000. Yeah. No.
They discussed the financing options. There, it was going to be less than 3,000 if you were financing it plus, but we did account for the condo fees and everything. So, but it is close to that if you were owning versus renting it, right? So,
Right. It's within that number. So yeah. So that's a very good example actually, because if you're renting for 3,000, why would you not buy if you can get qualified, if you have the right down payment and salary to start with
mhm,
your first home.
mhm,
And that property has a lot of upgrades too. So they should check it out.
mhm. Sounds good, Tess. Well, thank you again for sharing that and sharing the one opportunity there with your own
You're
listing.
welcome.
And and I think we wanted to touch on briefly about the rents, right? Like
Yes,
how.
actually, there is. Yeah. So the average rent in Canada right now drops for the first time since 2021. So this is for all Canada. As you know, one bedroom is in Canada, in Toronto, it's, you don't want to know. It could go as high as 2,500 for condo apartment, and for our two bedrooms, because I have two bedroom, two bathrooms for rent right now. I'm renting it for 2,850. And it's in a very
Mhm,
nice area as well, close to Scarborough Town Center. So they're really in a higher, you know, and a higher price point. But now it went down. It dropped by 1.2 in October 2024. So basically, they're saying it's marking the first annual decrease since July 2021. Most of the average monthly rent in whole Canada is 2,152. So
mhm,
with most of the declines in large cities like BC, so British Columbia and Ontario, where we are in, obviously. And Vancouver, Burnaby, and Toronto saw notable decreases, while smaller markets like Saskatchewan, I'm surprised by this, and Nova Scotia experienced significant rent increases. So when they say rent increases, I'm sure it's not in the same level as BC and Toronto, but for some reason, I'm sure they're cheaper still compared to us, but they have a rent
well,
increase there.
I think it's just where immigration is going, right? So it's just
Yeah,
supply and demand. So
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
because
No,
I
that's a
know
good,
like the Atlantic, the prairies, like
more
Calgary and all
affordable.
of that, right? Yeah, they're more affordable, but then there's becoming less supply because there's a lot more people moving there, right?
Yes,
So that's
exactly.
what I can see that's driving up some of these prices.
Exactly. That's
But
right.
mhm.
But I think it's going to be short-lived because there's going to be, the price, the housing market. We still have a huge shortage, right? Is still an
Mhm.
issue, and the government really haven't done anything much to fix that, and so there's still going to be a
Well,
high demand on the rents eventually.
the problem that I'm seeing is the approach that the government is taking to solve this kind of issue with housing is making it more quote unquote affordable by stretching out amortizations, by allowing them to be able to finance more money, as
Hmm.
opposed to figuring out to inject supply into the market to make
Right.
housing affordable. So yeah, so Canadians are becoming more in debt, quote unquote, right? And then
Yeah.
they're being able to afford mortgages because the amortization have increased, but really there's still a lack of supply.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
think that's the one thing that they have to focus on, is how do they figure out, either by giving more incentives to builder to build, speeding up the process to build more properties, because that's what needs to happen for us to be able to have affordable housing options, right? Not
That's
just
right.
kind of changing rules just so that people can take on more debt. So,
That's right. Mababaon yung mga taong marami ng utang doon
mhm,
sa mga nila sa their existing debts. At saka
mhm,
I noticed too that there's a high unemployment rate as well, right? A lot of people are losing their jobs, and then if they have jobs, they don't really have a good amount of increase to really match the inflation. The commodity
mhm,
price is very high. We both noticed that,
mhm.
especially because you have a kid. Yeah, so that's it's just there's just so many
Yeah,
things that's happening.
things are
Expensive,
definitely expensive right now. And yeah, as you have children and
especially in
definitely higher
Toronto
cost. Yeah.
and the surrounding
Mhm.
areas, right? Because yeah, it's a ripple effect.
Well, was there
Um,
anything else before we wrap up today's episode, Tess?
well, I just wanted to remind our, the Toronto, because it's more specific to Toronto homeowners, that the vacant home tax is due
Mhm.
next year, April 30th, 2025. I believe the government has already sent those
I-
yellow.
Is it April 30th, or you have it 25th here on our notes?
Is it, shoot, I have to double check.
Well, end of April then.
End of April.
End of April.
and
Just
End of April. So all you have to do just to make sure is to go to your Google, search fake home tax, and then from there you click submit declaration. So you don't want to miss this, because if you miss it, you're gonna be taxed, right? You're gonna be paying penalty. You know how the government loves that. You make a
Mhm.
mistake, boom, you gotta pay up.
You're paying, yeah, and those interest cost add up. So
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
keep that in
So
mind.
basically, if you choose to keep your properties vacant, this is exactly what it is. If you choose to keep your properties vacant, you'll be subject to a tax, with the revenue being allocated to affordable housing, and that's what the government says. They're saying that that's where it's heading. That's where the money is it's heading to. Anyways, I just
Well,
hope that
thank
they don't forget, because it's very important. I do that
Mhm.
for my mom, anyways, every year. But for those who
Sounds good.
who don't know,
Well, thank you for that reminder, Tess, and thank you again for today's episode and for all of that information that you
thanks,
provided
Pao.
us.
Thanks for your feedback.
And for sure. And for everybody that's listening, make sure you follow us at Pinoy's Homes Canada on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and you can find us there. If you have any questions, feel free to message us as well.